At 12 noon on January the 3rd, a plaque was unveiled at Southampton docks to commemorate the passage of more than 3.5 million American personnel through the port from which their forefathers, the Pilgrim Fathers, originally sailed for the New World on August the 15th, 1620. Southampton docks, Britain's great southern port, has for many years provided a link with all parts of the world, and the port has figured prominently in the history of the British Empire throughout the centuries. The Romans used it, and in due course were followed by the Saxons and the Normans. The docks played an important part in the War of 1914-18, when over 7 million men and more than 3 million tons of stores and equipment were passed over its quays. Southampton's activities have been even greater in the war just concluded, during which its close connection with the armed forces of the United States of America has been the most prominent feature of all its activities. In view of the fact that the American Army's functions will shortly cease, the officers of the 14th Major Port decided to present a tribute to the Southern Railway in the form of a bronze plaque with an appropriate inscription in commemoration of the vast armies and supplies of the United Nations that were moved through the docks during the critical days of the war. The commemorative plaque placed on number 8 gate at the Southern Railway docks, Southampton, was unveiled by Colonel Sherman L. Kaiser, Port Commander, 14th Major Port, U.S. Army. The plaque was received on behalf of the Southern Railways by Mr. R.P. Biddle, the company's docks and marine manager. Colonel Kaiser, in an earnest speech enriched with some witty thrusts, paid tribute to the cooperation of Southern Railway under the then docks and marine manager, Mr. H.A. Short, in handling wartime traffic and emergencies, and emphasised in particular that there had been no labour disputes in Southampton during the war. He pointed to the brilliant possibilities of future cooperation between the British and American peoples on the same lines to the world's lasting benefit. He then unveiled the plaque. In reply, Mr. R.P. Biddle, CBE, the present Docks and Marine Manager, who during the war was seconded to the Ministry of War Transport, said that the plaque would be a lasting memorial to the close cooperation which had existed between the 14th USA Port and the whole of the civilian staffs associated with the Port of Southampton. It could truly be said that as a result of that cooperation a marvellous job of work had been achieved. No fewer than 4.5 million personnel passed through the port during the war, and nearly 5 million tons of military stores and equipment. That reflected much credit on the American port staff, the British Movement Control, the Admiralty, the Ministry of War Transport, Sea Transport, and all the civilian dock workers of every category. Here in Southampton, he said, "We are proud of the way the dockers have pulled their weight during the war years. They did splendidly, and so did the railway grades, the ship repairers, and many others." It is difficult to realise that it is a little over 100 years also that a number of businessmen of London, Liverpool, Manchester and Southampton first saw the possibilities of developing this port. The meeting was held in the well-known London hostelry in Lombard Street, the George and Vulture. So rapidly did the scheme develop that 2 years later, on the October the 12th, 1838, the foundation stone of the docks was laid. Steady progress followed the initial stage until what are still known as the old docks were completed. In the meantime, on November the 1st, 1892, the docks undertaking passed into the hands of what was then the London and South Western Railway Company, through the foresight of the late Sir Charles Scooter. The commencement of the new docks extension, it is interesting to recall, took place on this very date, January the 3rd, 19 years ago. The land upon which we now stand is part of 400 acres which were reclaimed from the sea. When one reflects on the tremendous cooperation which has existed throughout the war years between the American and British service departments and the civilian dock organisations working in this area, one cannot but hope that it will be possible for a similar cooperation to continue between our great nations, so that we may be as united in the pursuance of peaceful commerce as we were in the successful development of the war effort. A continuation of this goodwill should guarantee years of peaceful progress. The happy phraseology of the plaque, which Colonel Kaiser has just presented to us should encourage this ideal. It should remind us also that many of those who pass through this port on this great adventure to the other side failed to return. I have been asked by my General Manager, Sir Eustace Missenden, to express to you, Colonel Kaiser, and to your officers and staff, the Southern Railway Company's appreciation of the friendly and efficient cooperation that has always been extended to us, and at the same time the Company's grateful thanks to you for this plaque, which will be a constant reminder of our happy association together," Mr. Biddle concluded.
Failed at the dock gates. 1939 to 1945. This tablet was presented to the Southern Railway by the 14th Major Port United States Army in proud and glorious memory of the men and women of the forces of the United Nations who sailed from this port during the war against aggression to secure the freedom of mankind.